Hi. Welcome back to Midlife Unfiltered. I am Donna, and this is my co-host Nick.
Welcome in, everybody. Today we are sitting down with Danielle Frank. She has gone from red carpet and wine to being a motherhood, writing a book, broken off engagements. And thank you so much for welcoming us and joining us today on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on your great podcast. I'm excited to be here and chat with you ladies.
Yeah, so are we. We're excited to hear your story, Danielle.
So why don't you go ahead and let everybody know who you are and your book and how you went from being on the red carpet to no longer being on the red carpet and being an author and a mom and everything else.
She's not a mom, so that's a little plot twist, which we'll get into. But
Okay. Okay.
essentially, what's relevant, to your audience and to your thematic, your podcast, which I love sharing with your listeners, is, I really enjoy shining a light on how embracing life pivots, even when it doesn't match the checklist, is really freeing and empowering. My story, as you'll hear, is rooted in transformation and the kind that doesn't happen all at once, but it's happened through a series of unexpected pivots. I like to say I've lived multiple plot twists. I moved from New York to LA. I shifted careers out of the entertainment world into wine and spirits, where I've been working for the last 22 years. I
Wow.
navigated a broken engagement where I realized the future I thought I was headed toward, which did include motherhood, wasn't the one that might happen for me. And instead of letting those detours define me, I learned to rewrite the story entirely. And that's what I love going on podcasts to talk about, talking openly about, bucking traditional timelines, embracing a life that looks different than the quote unquote expected checklist, and discovering the freedom, the humor, the purpose in the unplanned. Because what I've realized is that sometimes the most meaningful life often begins when the original plan ends.
That is the very, very true. 100% true. I mean, I always tell people you might have, like, even with my kids, I tell them you might have a plan. This is what you're going to be, but rabbit trail happens, dead end. And, I always tell them, I was like, just be prepared for the stop sign or the detour, because
Yeah.
sometimes what you think you want to do is not always what it's meant to be. And sometimes it's for the better.
Yeah, and it's inevitable. Change is going to happen. So it's all about embracing that change and learning how to be nimble and to adjust and to lean into it.
Yeah.
Wow. I
Tell
love
us how
this.
your transition started.
So, really started, first I was living in New York. I'm from the East Coast, and I was working for Miramax Films. This is, over 25 years ago. Miramax was in its heyday. If you were in New York and you worked in the entertainment industry, that's where you wanted to be. And, for as long as I can remember, I just wanted to work in the entertainment space. And I got a job there in the international PR department. I mean, it was great. I was in my 20s, living in New York City, going to the Cannes Film Festival and Venice Film Festival in Berlin. And I mean, it was a life. And every month I'd go to LA, and I just fell in love with it. And so after 6+ years at Miramax, I just started to get a little restless. And
Mhm.
the first transition was really, I had a boyfriend, and all of our friends were starting to, that sort of very, very East Coast or mentality, or, of, oh, you have to be married by 30, have kids by this age, or, even sooner. So everybody's starting to
Yeah.
get married. And I just was in this stage where I was like, wait, I'm not quite there yet. Like, I'm not ready for that. I've been traveling the world with this job. I love seeing the world. There's still so much I want to do. I had this itch to move to LA. So I just kind of was like, pause on the quote unquote expected checklist of having to get married and have kids right now. And I said, you know what? There's plenty of time for that, but there might not be, as many opportunities just to pick up and leave, especially because I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have all that. Now's
Yeah.
the time if I want to leave and moved to LA. So I picked up and moved to LA. I left Miramax and I came out here, and I've been out here celebrating 24 years in November.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be.
Oh,
But yeah, so that was sort of the first big pivot. But then, quickly after that, there were no studio jobs. So I worked at a PR firm, and it was representing the talent directly. And I kind of always knew that was not my avenue. Like, no disrespect to personal publicists. I'm not a yes man. I don't want to manage somebody else's life that's, not my immediate family or anything.
Right.
And on top, but it got me out to LA. I was like, it got me a job, and I said, all right, maybe I will like it. And, unfortunately, the company that I signed with, it was also a very toxic work environment.
No.
Was Yeah, I walked in on the first day and like 3 publicists were in their office crying, and I was like, "What did I get myself into?"
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I was there for 3 months. I will tell you this, in all my time at Miramax Films, sure, I was in my 20s living in New York. Did I go out to the club the night before and not wanna wake up and go to work, you know? Sure, there were many days that I was like, "Ugh, I have to go to work." But there was not one day where I had that pit, that angst in my stomach about not
Yeah.
wanting to go to the office. When I was at this PR firm, there were like many days where I had that like ulcer inducing feeling of not wanting to go into the office. And that was another big life moment and realization for me that, really leaning into and learning that like when the job and I learned this lesson too, and when the relationship or when a friendship, when it's not serving you and it's not serving your happiness, it's not a space to live in. And
Yeah.
y- look, we spend half of our lives at work and you have to
Yeah.
enjoy it to some capacity. So I quit without having another job, which is very unlike me because I'm very type A. But so that
And you're in a
was
different state.
yeah, different states. But, again, I was late 20s. I didn't have a family. I didn't have a mortgage. Some of that's naivety, right? Like some of it is confidence that I started to build in myself, right? And that's what I always say with every transition, you're providing yourself with new information and you're building up your arsenal of believing in yourself and confidence that you can do it. You can tackle the next change. And so I just have belief in myself that I'll figure it out. I'll get something else. And I couldn't find any studio jobs at the time. And somebody told me about this job working for Bacardi USA in wine well, they don't have wine. They're just
Mhm.
all spirits. And I was like, it was a very entry level job. And I was like, I'll just do this in the meantime until I figure out what it is I want to do. Right. Because you work from home, you get a car allowance. Great. This sounds great. This is a good temporary, position. Well, I was
Yeah.
with Bacardi for over 10 years.
Wow.
Now I'm with Moet Hennessy Wine and Spirits. I just celebrated 12 years.
Nice.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, I'm over 21 with all these years we're counting up. Uh, but yeah, so that was another big pivotal moment for me. It's just really, learning that like when you embrace the change, you can realize that like
Yeah.
again, maybe this path is the one you were meant to be on all the way, all along. And I've discovered this new path, and what a great industry that I work in, and I'm fortunate to work for great companies. So by leaning into it, it really just, exposed myself to other opportunities that I might not have been aware of previously.
And at the
I like though.
time, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Donna.
At the time, did you miss the entertainment industry? Like, oh, you were had this urge to go back, or it was like, okay, I'm satisfied. You working for Bacardi, and obviously 10 years, you had to like it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't miss it so much because, look, they're like working in entertainment, there's exciting things, right? Like, when like being on these red carpets, but, I'm not the one that's like getting treated as like a celebrity on the red carpet. You're working it. So it's not as fun. You're not getting to enjoy the movie premiere. When I'm going to
Yeah,
these film festivals, I'm not getting to
working it.
enjoy. Great that I can go to these places, but you're working it. So I think also like living in LA and also working for these brands like Bacardi, Grey Goose, people are always hitting you up to like sponsor their events. So now all of a sudden I'm getting to go to these events as a guest because we sponsored it. I'm like, it's not so bad. And now so yeah. And living in LA, you're exposed to the industry, and I have friends in the industry. But like anything, the industry has its pluses and its minuses, and it's a
Hmm.
job at the end of the day. It's not all it's not all red carpets and yeah.
It's not all wine and roses, as they say, right? I'm glad though that you are, talking about, the how it's fun to work in the entertainment industry, but then there's the other side, where you just felt that it wasn't for you. Because you see so many young people like, oh, I want to get into this and I wanted to get into that. And I'm always like, you realize that those amazing PR people that you see on the red carpet with their clients is not as easy as you think. They're constantly working. They're making sure that the right questions are going to be asked. Don't ask this person. Don't ask person. You can go here. You can do this. I was like, I go, these people are literally never sleeping. I go, they go on vacation, but guess what they have on them when they're on vacation? Their phone. It's
Yeah.
like if one of their clients does something stupid, they're doing the dirty work while they're on vacation. And I said, so yes, it has its perks, but also has its minuses. And I always like, we have a friend that wants to, she's working and getting into the becoming an actress. She just filmed an independent film and I can't wait for it to come out. But she knows, she's like, it's hard. She's like, it's so hard. I'm like, and the amount of secrets that she knows she has to keep, and she can't say this, and she can't do this. So I'm glad though that you talked about how you were in the industry and you just weren't feeling it anymore. You're just like, I'm not happy anymore. And you took that plunge because I think so many people, especially young people, as but well for you it benefited because you weren't married, you had no children. So you were able to take that leap of faith and just go where you didn't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I have to provide for the little ones or I have to pay my mortgage. You were able to take that and it worked and it worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of great points. I don't know if you saw the movie Jay Kelly with Adam Sandler and George Clooney. It was a great movie, and George plays an actor, and Adam
Hmm.
Sandler and Laura Dern are his people, agent or manager, and the publicist. And it really is a clear, a very good representation of, like you said, like, and that's why I knew I didn't want to get into personal PR.
Hmm.
I recognized early at a young age, like, I really enjoy work-life balance. That's
Hmm.
important to my mental health. When I go on vacation, I want to go on vacation. And
Yeah.
to your point, like when you have clients and their lives are your life, like there's
Hmm.
no off switch. And I didn't want a
There's not.
job that carried that. Now, I mean, I go on vacation and I'm able to, completely uh shut down and yeah, I don't have to worry about anybody really relying me. Of course, if there's an emergency, they can always text me and, but I always say I'm not
Yeah.
touring here, so it's not,
Yeah, of course.
but yeah, and to your point, I mean, my niece just graduated college and I always say to younger people too, like, because, and that's the thing, like when I was younger, I just knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, interned at a PR firm in college, and that helped get me in the door to
Hmm.
Miramax. But looking back now, I'm like, I wish I really had a better understanding of like, what are the different types of jobs in the entertainment industry?
Yeah.
Like maybe I would have
Yes.
gotten like producing or something else. I just happened to fall into PR. And that's
Yeah.
also probably why I fell out of it. I enjoyed it, but like then it didn't become my avenue and I didn't want to stay in that. But yeah, I mean, I
Hmm.
highly recommend people like, especially with the tools available now, like, we didn't have online where we could like do research on what
Hmm.
really is entailed in a job, what's the skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
have a
nowadays
friend who's
go ahead.
I have a friend that is a producer for Chicago Fire, and she just talks about all the time how she's just constantly working these long hours, but she loves it. But it's a lot of hours, and she talks about how she has to be careful. She can't say this, she can't say that, but she's allowed to give subtle hints. She'll be like, "It's not filming over here, but here's a picture." Like she could do something like that. She knows what she can do, so she's very careful what she says, but she loves it. She has no children either, but she's been doing it for so long. I said, "How did you get into this?" And she's like, "I just knew this is what I wanted to do." And yeah.
Because you were saying everybody thinks it's like such a sexy job. Like I remember I interned in a summer at like a commercial production company and
Hmm.
we were shooting a phone commercial and like you don't realize, I mean, shooting a movie, TV commercial, it can take all day to shoot a minute
One
long scene.
scene.
Yeah, it's like, and it's repetitive. Like, it's not all that exciting all the time. Everybody just sees the end product, but that's why I always say, like, really research, like, what's involved in this, and understand, what goes into a job. It's not just all roses and wine, as you said.
Exactly, right? So let's talk about your current job now and where you're at and the amazing things that you get to do and how you went about doing all that and bringing in somewhere along the line you wrote a book.
Yeah, so I currently work for Moet Hennessy. So I left Bacardi, as Bacardi's all spirits, but I really want to expand my repertoire of knowledge beyond just spirits.
Hmm.
And I'm a big wine lover. So when Moet Hennessy came knocking, I took the job. I've been with them, just celebrated 12 years, as I said.
Thanks.
I oversee the resort sub channel. So I call on all hotels at the corporate level, like the big hotel groups like Four Seasons, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt for North America. And it's great. And it's just, I get to work on amazing brands like Veuve Clicquot, Dom Perignon, Moet and Chandon, Belvedere, Hennessy, a bunch of wines, Whispering Angel. So it's an amazing portfolio that I get to shepherd these amazing brands with such history and, consumer that have consumer aspirations and how
Mhm.
they live. Yeah, it's great. So I love it. I hope to retire with them. It's a fun industry. And when you, like I said, when you work for an amazing company, it
Mhm.
really, that's so much of it too. Younger generations don't understand. Like, really, when you find a great company that takes care of their employees, that is equally as important.
For
Yeah.
sure.
That is a huge, huge, it's rare and, you can't always find it, but a company that takes care of their employees is one that I never want to be, that I want never want to leave.
Yes.
Right.
You
Yeah.
become like family to them, and they want,
Yeah.
they know when they have good employees, and they will fight tooth and nail to make sure that you stay.
Yeah.
They will
Yeah,
do whatever
exactly.
they need. They will do whatever they need to do to make sure that you stay.
So tell us a little bit about your book, the title, tell our audience so they know all the good stuff.
Yeah. So, um, a couple things. I wrote this book about 14 years ago. So at this time, I was engaged to be married,
Mhm.
because I was now ready for that stage. I was going to be married and I was ready. And I always wanted kids. And my ex fiance has two kids from his first marriage. And, I'm such a nurturer. I was a bonus mom for many years. I'm very involved in my niece and nephew's lives. I'm Auntie Anielle to many of my friends' kids. So I have that maternal instinct. And, he sort of went back and forth about whether he wanted more kids. And we finally got engaged and he said, we can have a kid. But quickly after we got engaged, I realized ultimately, I was like, this guy doesn't want a kid. And I don't want to be with
Mhm.
somebody that doesn't want to have a kid. Now, mind you, there were a lot of other things wrong in the relationship. Sometimes I say that, sometimes it's just I needed to get to it. And, I don't know, maybe just finally getting engaged really opened my eyes up to, wait a minute, this is not going to be a marriage that lasts because of all these things. So why am I going to go through this? So here I was, late 30s now, broken off engagements, as we as women know, also, late 30s, it's like, it's question whether, you're going to be able to have kids as you get older. And so I was sort of faced with this, idea that the path of motherhood might not happen for me, but I still want a seat at the table to how kids are raised. And, I don't think you have to be a parent to have something valuable to contribute to conversations about raising good human beings.
Right.
And so I was watching my niece and nephew, and they were kids at the time. And although great kids, of course, every kid has the propensity to whine. And
Mhm.
they were whining about something. And I said, Auntie Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine. So the wheels started
Good one.
turning in my head because at the same time, this guy, Adam Mansbach, wrote a book called Go the F to Sleep, which sort of opened the door to an adult children's book genre. It's written like a children's book. It's illustrated, but not made for kids.
Okay.
So the wheels started turning about, oh, that could be a really fun idea. Again, I work in the wine industry, so I know all about wine. I love the idea of making wine knowledge easy, fun, accessible. Enjoying wine shouldn't be daunting. So I just started to think about all these fun parallels of like raising kids, raising humans to wine terminology. And so I conceptualized this book, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, the Fine Art of Wine and Wine Management. And so it's written like a children's book. It's illustrated. It all rhymes. Every time I use wine terminology, it gives the definition. And at the back of the book, it gives a basic understanding of how wine's made. But again, as I said, I want a seat at the table to how kids are raised. And I think we see now more than ever with what's going on in the world. I mean, we need, the future generations, these are the ones that are going to be running the world. And we need people with empathy and not to discriminate. So, I really wanted to kind of have this fun sort of, it's a great book. You give somebody a new parent, old parent, at a baby shower, parent
Baby
with a
shower.
onesie.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. The parent with a onesie, you're done. Mother's Day gifts, so really just getting, it's a fun, approachable, lighthearted humor book. But just like poignant ways of just remembering, like, yeah, you want to teach your kids manners. Yes, you don't like. There's a chapter in there about like, is your kid a mulled wine? Mulled wines are heated. They're spiced. Sometimes served as a punch. So that's all about you want to make sure your kid's not heated and spiced and being a bully outside the home. And actually, many moms have said to me that chapter really resonated with them because sometimes, when you're in the trenches, you lose sight of what's right in front of you. And also As parents, everybody has said they're guilty of like not wanting to believe that that's their child.
Sure.
And I
Right.
remember one woman said, she's like, somebody did tell me my boy, not fighting or hitting, but being a little bit of a bully to kids. And she's like, that chatter, it just made me like, laser and hone in and be like, okay, yeah, I do have to nip this in the bud because, before it
Mhm.
becomes
That's great.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. My daughter, my oldest daughter, was bullied from elementary to middle school, and so yeah, I don't play. I don't. My kids just know we don't play that game because and it's not gonna happen. It won't end well for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
That's
won't end
not
well at all.
tolerated.
Absolutely, she knows my kids, and she just knows we're done.
Nope.
So
We don't tolerate any of that either over here. That's for sure.
yeah,
You
so
wanted to read us a chapter.
I'd love to. So this chapter is you don't lesson 3, you don't want your kids to ferment. So in the winemaking process, fermentation is when you turn sugar into alcohol. So we think sugar is something sweet, alcohol can be
hmm
harsh or biting. So this is you want your kids to learn manners so they don't turn into someone harsh or biting. Manners, manners, manners are the key to it all. These lessons need to start even when they're small. Teach them this from day one before they start to crawl. You don't want your kid to be the sour grape in the bunch and turn into a spoiled brat that kids want to punch. When they start talking, make sure they know thank you and please, and to always say bless you when they hear someone sneeze. Please and thank you are an absolute must. Without that, your child's a total bust. There's nothing worse than a child who has behavior that is crude, because it'll continue as they're older and become someone who's rude. People don't take kindly to and aren't nice to those with attitude, because it's very off putting and puts others in a bad mood, oftentimes causing confrontation and leads to a nasty feud. Wanting to put a little bit of poison in your child's food. Is that really how you want your kids to be viewed? Wouldn't you prefer that there's someone who's wooed? Without manners, they'll ferment and turn into someone harsh and biting. They may turn into a kid who's rude, obnoxious, and always fighting. So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
I
Wow, that is
love that.
so good. It's so
Thank
spot
you.
on. Holy cow.
Thank you.
And it rhymes, which keep every. Oh wow, I could just sit there and listen to it all day long. It does anything that short, sweet rhymes, and it was very spot on, 100%.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Yes, I love
I love
rhyming.
that.
I love interjecting humor. Like I said, I'm not a professional, parenting
Yeah, no.
expert and all that. It's just all, tongue in cheek, homage to, parents are have the toughest job out there. And it's
Yeah,
all just a fun, lighthearted way to remind us that like we all need to raise good human beings, even if we are a
yeah,
parent or even if we're an aunt. We need to
yeah,
impress upon, these impressionable kids at a young
yeah,
age, good behavior.
It's
yeah.
so
Because
so important nowadays,
yeah,
especially. I
Yeah.
feel like this generation kinda lost that a little bit. They're like, "Poor me right now," and or "What about me?" or "I need help. But you know
Yeah.
what? You have to be cognizant of what's going on around you and who you're dealing with and who you can help just to be a good person.
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to be
And
kind.
like you were just saying, you're not a parent, but you're an auntie, and you still have little ones that look up to you. So I always say, even if you're not a parent, you're an adult. Children are going to look up to you. They're going to see you. They're going to want to model after you. So if you're mom's best friend or your dad's best friend and you're the funkle or the whatever, they're still going to look up to you and they're going to model after you. So we always have to, and I always say little kids have sponges. So, they're going to model after, so they're going to pick up like that, no matter what you say or what you do. So I always want to make sure that when I'm around children, that, how I act with them behind closed doors or how I act in public is exactly who I am. I'm not, two different people. And that's what I tell my kids. I'm like, you don't want to be, like you said, parents always say, oh, my little Susie or little Anthony would never do that. Sometimes they act one way at home, but when they're out in public, they're different with their peers. And I'm hard, like on my younger son. I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, this is not how I raised you. We're not going to do this. Your actions reflect on me and your dad as parents, and that's not okay. Absolutely not. So I always tell them, my kids, I'm like, how you act reflects on us.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
We don't,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Who did the illustrations for your book?
So I hired somebody because I did what's called hybrid publishing. So it's like self-publishing, but you pay for somebody who has experience to guide the process. It's definitely a learning curve. I mean, all this,
Mhm.
self promotion. It's a lot of work. It's a full-time job. But I went on the site Fiverr, and you can look at, you can put in like
Yes.
illustrators, and then you could see sort of like examples of their work. So I found a couple who sort of had the look and feel of like what I was looking for, like less anime and more of this style. And so then I sent 3 or 4 people I hired to do, I think I sent them like chapter one. And, I said, here's the vision I'm looking for. And this guy, Eris in Indonesia, he just nailed it out of the park. And so I hired him for the full job. And he really, like, the illustrations are amazing in this. Like, he really brought my vision to life. So it's amazing.
Oh, I love that. We use Fiverr all the time. I love
How long
Yeah.
ago did you publish?
I published at the like October of last year.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
lot. It's hard to get it out there, and yeah, it's a lot of work, and
Yeah.
but it's been fun, just bringing it to life. As I said, I wrote this 14 years ago, and I've always gotten good feedback on it. And I'm somebody who is a big proponent of checking things off your life bucket list.
Mhm.
Everything within legal limits. I grew up loving game shows. I went on a game show a couple of years ago. I want to
You
travel the
did?
world. Yeah, I went on $100,000 pyramid. Oh my God, it was so fun, but
Oh, I
so
love that
scary.
show.
Yeah, it was so fun. But yeah, so this was one I was like, if I never do anything with this is gonna be the one thing that plagues me on my deathbed. And so, I heard about this hybrid publishing. So it was less daunting than self-publishing. It's an investment. I spent a lot of money to bring it to life. But I was at that stage where I was like, okay, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to see it, come to life, and it's been amazing. Even if 10 people read it, it's just been amazing to be able to bring it to the world.
Wow,
That's
I love that.
wonderful. Good for you. You know what? I love the fact that when people can just like fulfill their dreams, it doesn't have
Mhm.
to reach a million trillion people. Well, like we were saying, me and Nick always say, if our podcast can reach one person and it can affect them in a positive way, then we did our job for the day.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I would love the book to go viral because I'd
Of
love
course.
to make a ton of money. But no, I'm just happy. Like I said, if nothing else, I completed this check on my list of bringing my project from start to finish.
I
You'll
love
have to
that.
give us all the links so we
Yep.
can put it in the bio when we post the podcast.
Super, thank you.
Yes, we
Yeah.
will do that. So let me ask you this. Because you've had two different careers. You had one on the red carpet, and now you have your wine and your spritz career. What would you tell a young person that's looking to get into either career that you had? What advice would you give them? Because I know it can be very scary because a lot of times they say they don't know where to start, they don't know where to go, but it's something that they would want to do. What advice would you give them, or what would you tell them?
Any kid, right? I mean, any career. And this is what I'm trying to instill in my niece as well. Like, we're so conditioned when we're younger. I
Mhm.
mean, even when I was younger, at first I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. We have so much access with the
Mhm.
internet, and we have so many tools available now. Like,
Mhm.
people probably don't even realize like what jobs exist out there. And there's so many like, career counselors too that like to
Yeah.
really think about like what your skill set is, what drives you, what you're
Mhm.
passionate about. Really look into like what is the day to day involved and what's the long term, what's your trajectory? Like what if you
Mhm.
go into this, what is your long term trajectory of like where can that take you, right? You don't want to end with something that's like going to just be a dead end somewhere and doesn't give you opportunity to excel. So I think it's just really, trying to find out, just be a sponge as much as you can, see about
Mhm.
connecting with people that are in those industries to learn more about it. What are the pluses? What are the
Mhm.
minuses? And then, like I said, like just don't be scared to, if something you embark on doesn't work, don't be scared to pivot because, the most
Yeah.
important thing is not staying in something or being stuck. And that goes with career, that goes with relationship, that goes with friendship. If it's not serving you, I always say there's not one yellow brick road to Oz, right? There's lots of paths along the way. And you step off one
Mhm.
path and you go on another. And if you step on another path and that's not working out, well, then you could go on a different path. I mean, that's the beauty of the world we live in is, there's lots of opportunities that can be made available to us. You just have to want to explore it and explore the different paths and see and find what works for you.
Yeah, it's the truth. Nowadays, I've noticed because my older son graduated college, there are so many careers out there that, when we were going to school, you never ever would have thought of. I mean, if you went to school to be an accountant, you took all your prerequisites and, everything that adds up for you to be an accountant. But now it it could bring it down. So I want to be an accountant in Alaska for an oil company. Like, and you can literally study that. Like, it's so, I don't even know what to say. It's so, it like, it just, you can pinpoint what you want if that's what you want. And we didn't have those opportunities back then. It was just more broad.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that hopefully kids nowadays take advantage of that specificism. That's not even a word, but being more
Yeah.
specific that of what they want to do and then study it and go for it.
I mean, and AI, I mean, for what it's worth, people love it or hate it. There are some really valuable tools. And I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, imagine if back in the day I could just sit in AI and be like you said, the example of an accountant. Hey, I want to be an accountant, but I don't want to, what are the different areas and,
Mhm.
what like you can just spit it out there and talk about the things that do interest you and AI can give you a whole,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
list of suggestions like of things within that realm of, I don't know. It's they definitely have more tools and resources to explore. And like I said, just talk to people as much as you can. Be a sponge. Yeah.
I think that's another thing also, like, internships, there's more opportunities. I don't think there was as many when I was in college to do an internship and to kinda have something on your resume when when you graduate and you're ready to go. I didn't have those opportunities.
Yeah. People
So
love free labor. Get to just do even unpaid internship. Just, yeah, like learn whatever
learn
you
it.
can.
Yeah, learn it.
I mean, I loved it. I mean, you talked about two different careers. They're almost like night and day, but at the same time, like you said, now that you have this career, you're seeing the other side. Like you get to go to the parties that are in LA because you're representing your beverage that you work with. You go to different hotels and things of that nature. So, I mean, different, but it's at the same time it's fulfilling and it's fun for you. And I think that's what I would say a lot of the younger people need to, I think a lot of young people go into work or into jobs thinking I need to get the highest pay that I can get. I want this, but are they happy? And in your case, I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. So it's probably not true, but let's just say, for example, you working where you were out on the red carpet, let's just say, for example, you were making, a couple $100,000 a year. You're like, yes, I've got all this money. And then you moved here and let's just say you're making 70,000 a year, but you're so happy. And I think that's the balance that you have to decide. Is it worth being miserable and having all this money, or is it worth having less money and being happy? And I
Yeah.
think that's
Oh,
something that a lot of younger people need to take into consideration when they go for their jobs.
I remember my first job when I moved to New York, when I was moved into the city. As I said, all I wanted to do was work at Miramax, and there were no jobs at the time. And so I was
Mhm.
I was doing temp jobs, and I was temping. I was just talking about this with my best friend that I grew up with, and I was temping, and I got this temp job with it was like a construction company, and I was
Mhm.
working in the head office, and they decided to hire me, and it was really good. I love how you said like you were making $100,000. No, I mean, we were like, how did we make like $24,000
Right.
living in New York City? I mean, this is, over 25 years ago, but
Mhm.
we managed, but like, I think the going rate was like people were making 25,000 when they got out of school.
Right.
This construction company, they hired me and I think they offered me like 29 or 30,000. So it was like, oh my God, wow. But I was like, it was not a job I was excited about at all. And, I was
Mhm.
always keeping my eyes open when something opened at Miramax. But I remember my stepmother at the time saying to me, she's like, yeah, you're making, good money then. You're making money, but like the longer you stay there, you're not happy. The longer you stay there,
Yeah.
the more your salary is going to go up, the more vacation time you're going to accrue. Those perks, it's going to make it harder to walk away and
Yep.
to go
Yeah.
after something that
Yes.
you really want. And so do it now. And so that really was the first lesson of that. Like, yeah, I mean, we all want money to live, but yeah, I think, that can't be, especially kids just starting out. Like,
Yeah.
it can't be the driving force because like I said, like you can make that money and you're just and then you could just be stagnant at that level too. I mean, if you find something you're really passionate about and you love it, it's all about them wanting to stay in that career, making it a career
Mhm.
advancing up so you can get to that pinnacle of your career
Right.
financial as well. But now it's doing something that you've really, a career that you fostered because you loved it.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. I love when we can kinda mold, younger kids and we can, get talk to them about our experiences and hopefully
Yeah.
help them.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think, the thing I tell, younger people or anybody too is, like you said, like transitions, pivots, change, it's all part of the process. And that's not a detour, it's not failure, it's the curriculum. And I know for me, every transition has taught me it's given me confidence to know that I can tackle the next change, but it's also given me discernment, right? I mean, I think about the relationship pivots and all that. Like each one has taught me, I mean, the crap I put up with in my 20s with men, I would never fly. And like the older I got, and
Right.
so I mean, an example is like when I broke off my engagement, that was the first real big, relationship lesson. Like I broke up with him and I remember I didn't cry another day. I was so happy on my own because I remember how unhappy and how lonely I felt in the relationship. And I was living on my own and I love living by myself. You have to love yourself. You have to be comfortable with yourself if you're going to be able to be comfortable in a relationship. And I just remember I was like, I'm fine on my own. And I'm actually very happy and comfortable on my own. And then my next relationship, I was with somebody, a great guy, 6 plus years, and we were living together. And, one of the issues, the drinking started to get out of control. And it just wasn't making me happy. I was starting like to sleep and I was like, why am I sleeping in my guest bedroom, of my own
Yeah.
place? And so I just kind of woke up one day. I was like, I don't need to do this. I'm very happy on my own. My personal happiness is, yeah, I'd rather be alone than in something that's not making me happy. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
that's why I say each transition teaches you discernment and self trust. And, I wouldn't remove those hard parts because that's really building the framework for you to
Hmm.
continue forward.
Yeah, and they're all stepping stones and something that you can take as you learn, and you can take that moment and share it with somebody else, and and help somebody else, whether they're younger than you, the same age as you.
Yeah,
Your lessons and your experience, as I always say, can always help somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I am definitely going to link your book. And do you have a website?
I do. It's daniellefrankauthor.com. You can find me on Instagram at create a great story. Because I feel like I'm creating a great story of my life. As Instagram's all pictures, so you see my
Mhm.
travels, every food I eat, because I'm a foodie, and lovely glass of wine. So yes, it's at create a great story, and yeah, and my book is on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com, and I'll send you guys the links. I appreciate you sharing that.
Perfect.
definitely.
Yes, we will definitely get it out there, and I'm definitely going to go get your book because I got to read the rest of it now because that was fantastic. That one little snippet was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so
We're
much for
happy to
having me.
sit
Keep up
down
the
with you.
great work. Me
Thank
too.
you so very much. So I will make sure that I will link everything below once you send me the proper links to everything, and we'll get everything set up. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Danielle.
Bye.
Bye.